Hey y'all, glad to have you here. It's great for you all to be able to join us today. We wanted to give you a little bit of insight into how we've been able to manage our career journeys here at Jump Recruits. I wanted to hear from you first. I wanted to see where everyone was joining from. See if we get any mentions coming in. See if we got a few coming in from Georgia. And I don't know if my team can help me with the folks that we're seeing on LinkedIn. Um, got a few people from Georgia on the Discord. I see someone from Florida. Um, so glad to see we got some folks in here. Um, give it a couple more minutes to give folks some time to trickle in and get started. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. So I guess we should get going. To give you a little bit of an intro on us, I am Mario Velasquez. I am a client partnerships lead here at Jump Recruits. I've been with the company for about 3 years and some change, and I started here as a sourcer, eventually a talent advisor slash recruiter, and eventually landed in this new seat. So I've been through quite a bit of changes here. Um, this last one being the most drastic, I would say, but it's been a very interesting journey, and I hope I can tell you a little more about that as we go along. I'll let Lourdes, also a team member of ours, introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Lourdes Astillaga. I'm a diversity talent sourcer here at Jump Recruits. I first joined the team as a community manager, so I've been through some of a career change myself. I've been working as a talent sourcer for more than 2 years now, and I enjoy every second of it.
Great, great. Worth mentioning, Lou and I did work together for a bit, and I can attest to the fact that she's excelled at everything that she's done. Another note, Lou started with us as a community manager and eventually made the transition into the sourcing team where she's done absolutely great work. With that out of the way, we wanted to give you a little bit of insight into what we're going to talk about today. This is an ongoing theme. Some of you may have joined in last week's masterclass on how to get started with your career goals and how we covered that with an overview of helpful personal development through a template that we gave you all. That template is still available in our site, jumprecruits.com, under our DNI white paper tab if you want to check it out. Today, we wanted to go a little deeper into that and take the next step. And through this masterclass, tell you a little more on how exactly to manage a career change. With all these layoffs and the movement in the economy, there's a lot of opportunities to figure out a new path, and a lot of people that are just now realizing, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? We saw first wave of that during COVID, where a lot of people had some downtime to think, okay, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life, or is this kind of the time to pivot? And as that opportunity starting to present itself again, we wanted to give you a little more insight into that particular mindset. What happens, or how to go about rather when you're thinking about moving into a different role.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into today's masterclass topic. It's really about giving you guys the tools and support that anyone might need. Whether someone is looking to switch industries completely and making a huge change, or maybe you're making a change in your current company or field, or possibly even starting your own business. So, regardless of the type of change that you want to make, we're here to provide the right tools for you to figure out a smart strategy and remind you that it is possible to make a career change successfully.
And remember that word smart. We'll be going back to it quite a bit as we go
Yes.
along. But before we get to that, we wanted to discuss a little more on what our journey has been like making this transition into our new roles and maybe give you some insights into what we saw and then get into how the SMART goal system can help you kind of flesh that out as you're starting to have that conversation internally. So, Blue, could you tell the audience a little more on how it was to live that transition going from a community manager to a sourcer?
Yeah, of course. At the beginning, I never imagined that I would become a sorcerer. I began feeling like it was the right path for me, but I was really scared to do that change. Honestly, I thought it was something that I would need to come from an HR background or a psychology background, as many recruiters and sourcers do. But I figured out with the help of the team, of course, that it's more about having a transferable skill set that allows you to do different things regardless of the job title itself. So that was what was really helpful, especially to have the confidence to make that career change. And how about you, Mario? Because you have done a big career change recently.
Yeah, yeah. And before I get into my experience, you did mention something that's key to what we're going to discuss today, and that's identifying the transferable skills.
Yeah,
And I wanted to expand on that a little more and maybe go
yeah,
back into your experience and to see how that kind of played out and maybe get into mine. But
okay,
the core of it is that when you're making a career change, no matter how drastic, there's always something that is transferable to what you're doing right now. Even if that is a role that's pretty far out of left field. Like I remember before I started my career in the more corporate world, I started out as a waiter and I did some customer service before that. So I started to handle rejection, fast-paced environments, learning to still deliver even if you are tired of walking around tables, um, managing resources, managing co-worker relationships. So there's always, no matter how out of left field it is, um, something that you can really use as a transferable piece into what you're trying to become later on. So I would encourage, as you're thinking about this in more of a step framework, to start thinking about what's really transferable of what you're doing right now to the point where you want to get to. Even if you don't get an actual answer out of that, you'll soon start to figure out that there's some things that you've been able to develop while
yeah.
you're looking to be in the market, and that will become useful sooner rather than later in your job search. Going back to your experience, Lou, what would you say were those transferable skills that helped you become a successful talent sourcer?
Well, I guess that first of all, my background in customer service was really helpful because then, as more companies were having an social media presence, then I made the transition from IRL customer service to being a community manager, where you also have to be like really attentive to people's needs, to be always supportive. So that was really helpful. And then, as a talent sourcer, also the way that we communicate with our community members, with candidates for a role, you always need to pay attention to putting their best interest first. So it was a smooth transition in that regard of having that customer service background and mindset, of course. Also, a thing that was really helpful is that I've always been like a curious type of person. So, as you know, being a sourcer is you really need to be creative with the searches, especially to find the right candidates for each role. So that was really helpful as well, and that was really fulfilling for me because in previous roles, I haven't had the chance or the opportunity to explore that more creative side. Um, but I always kept it like in my hobbies or in my personal projects. So now being able to put that into practice in my job makes it really fulfilling for me as well.
Great, great. And you touched on a lot of great points again. I think what I want to pick up from that to my experience is that, that in particular, the research piece, being able to think through the complex or very abstract problem of where exactly to find candidates, and particularly diverse candidates in high demand talent pools. That helped me, at least as I was making my transition into client partnerships, because the prospecting of potential customers was very similar to the problem of finding qualified candidates. We have a question coming in. I have a few friends looking for new roles or pivoting completely. Are there exercises available to help remembering all of your transferable skills? Some of them not aware or fully equipped to help them. There is, and that's a great question, Yesef. I hope I'm saying it right. Please forgive me if I'm not. We'll get into that as we go through our SMART goals handbook. At the end of it, there's a fillable piece where you can start to list out some of those things. Um, all in all, I think it's just a matter of a work of reflection and then thinking, okay, this is where I want to be, and then thinking through exactly how that's going to translate to this new role. I think another piece that was really successful, and that I was part of that with Lou, um, and Cedric, our CEO, was part of that with me as I was making the transition into client partnerships. Is having a mentor or a strong or someone that has experience in the field to guide you through exactly what it's like going through those first days. Because even if you have the transferable skills or you've done courses on the side, um, you'd still need someone that's been in the position to kind of guide you through the things that can't really pick up on from the outside. Um, so what does it mean to work in a contingency model or a retained model or a recruitment as a service model? The jargon that comes with a particular industry or line of work can definitely be daunting at first. The ins and outs of day-to-day life in a particular new role can be daunting at first. We've been lucky to have um, a supportive base here at Jump Recruits. However, I would always advise that you connect with people on LinkedIn or on social platforms that have done this work that you want to get into to at least get accustomed into what it means to have those types of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And it can be helpful even eventually for getting a job as well. Because I have my stats here, according to HubSpot, 85% of jobs are filled through networking. So you never know if what starts as a conversation about what this person's role or industry entails might also end up in getting a chance. So that's really important.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised at how much people are willing to help you if you're just looking to learn. I remember back when I was in college, I decided to my major's in psychology. I decided to do a study on a test that wasn't available in my home country where I finished college. So I had to send out a cold message to a professor with like 30 plus years of experience in research, working on a proprietary tool, and just asking nicely if he could teach me how to do it. And within 2 hours, he replies to the email and says, "Yeah, sure. I'll send you the materials. I'm doing a course to teach people how to do this. You can join for free, and I'll tell you how to do it." And that's
That's
basically how I got
amazing.
to graduate. um, so yeah, more often than not, people that have gotten to a certain echelon in their career or that are at that level where they see themselves as a reference point will be more than often than not willing to help those that are getting started, even if it is to point you in the direction of a few blogs or companies that you should apply to, or maybe boot camps if you're looking for something more tech related that would be of assistance. Don't ever underestimate the goodwill of those that are in positions of successful.
Yeah, agree. don't underestimate the power of a good uh, and well crafted cold message.
Yeah. As always, we did this a little bit when during our power workshop. But whenever you're planning on sending something out to any party of whom you're trying to get the attention to, please, please, please have someone proofread it before you send it. Um, we're all human. We let things slide. We've seen it more often than not receiving resumes. It can really help a ton if you just have an extra voice just going through what you're looking to send out.
Yeah, that's right. Super important.
All right. So with that out of the way, I wanted to know if there were any other questions coming through um, before we jump into the SMART framework or the SMART goals framework that we have here. Which, on broad strokes, it's a way to go through and really think about your goals in a way that is really attainable, that is achievable, and that allows for you to get where you need to be without getting lost in the gray area of exactly how it is that you're going to get there. So, what exactly are SMART goals?
We have it
So,
right here.
mhm.
Um, our team will help us out also with having it on screen. Okay, great.
So what the SMART goal system is basically breaking down what you want to do through a five criteria system that lets you see it as in how specific it is, how measurable it is, how achievable it is, how relevant it is, and in which time frame you can do it. And those parameters are the ones that are really going to set you up for success. In particular, as you're looking at a transition into a different career. The cool thing about the SMART goals is that you can really apply them to pretty much anything that you're looking to do, or if you wanted to build up a habit, or if you're looking to upscale but are feeling like it's a little too daunting. Like let's say you're trying to learn a new programming language, and just the goal of learning seems a little too broad. This can definitely help you in setting some more achievable goals within the near and short term to make sure that you can get exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it as the introduction mentions, break it breaking down your vision into achievable chunks or pieces will make the difference. Because what I've experienced in the times that I've had to make a career change or wanted to is that it's very easy to feel overwhelmed or to get discouraged, maybe even wanting to give out and think that it's too difficult or that is too late in life. In fact, when I was doing research for this masterclass, something that really surprised me is that I found the most common Google autocomplete questions about making a career change were is 30 too late to make a career change? Then 35 or 40. So that really shows that the only way to overcome like these obstacles and even like our own mindset or insecurities about making a career change is to be well informed and to break it into doable steps, things that you can actually achieve, and that you'll then measure your progress and see how far you've come. And that will give you the motivation to keep going until you reach your ultimate goal.
For sure, for sure. And before we go a little deeper into the SMART system, you did bring up a great point that I don't think we've covered, which is imposter syndrome and a career change.
Yeah.
So
Go
let's put
hand
a
in
let's yeah, they go hand in hand for sure. I remember when we were having our first conversation about transitioning into sales, I could just feel I was sinking deeper and deeper into the chair, just going like, "Oh God, what did I get myself into?" Just, thinking of, "Oh my God, this is a lot. This is a lot harder than I thought it was, or more complex than I thought it was when I was getting started." And Lou, I don't know if you had a similar experience when we went through that conversation. We're like, "Okay, you're gonna move into sourcing." What were your
Oh,
first thoughts when that came about?
absolutely. Oh, I thought I couldn't do it for sure. I
Yeah,
thought that no way I could be successful in the role. I mean, I wanted to try, but I didn't think that I will be a good sourcer or a good recruiter.
and what would you say helped in eventually becoming successful in that?
Besides having good mentors, like the ones I have here in the team, also setting goals, for example, even daily. And that's one thing I really like about our guide, where you have that part about the goals can be what will I achieve in 6 weeks, 6 months, and what can I do today. So it was more of a thing of having like a daily list of not only the tasks I wanted to do, but also like how to improve my skill set and how could I become this good sourcer that I wanted to be.
For sure. For sure. You touched on a lot of great points. I think the overall consensus there is that imposter syndrome is anxiety at its core.
Yeah.
And anxiety is defeated by action in the broadest of terms. I don't want to get into the clinical aspect of it, but when we're talking about job related anxiety, the real tried and true method is that you just have to go and do, even if it means not doing it great the first time or the second or the third. The only way that you really find out whether or not you have the skills to do something or be able to do something is by actually going out and trying it out, even if it is in very small chunk or bite-sized pieces. um, you need to get started somewhere, and my core advice on that is not letting the anxiety get to you to the point where you can't do anything.
Yeah.
I've definitely been guilty of that, and I can tell you that the only way to get out of the forest is through. There's really no other way around it. Yeah, so focusing on action items, on things you can accomplish on a single day, or on a single hour, on 15 minutes, um, can really help in telling your brain, okay, we need to do X. And of course, making sure that that's digestible is the next piece of it, which I think is a very good segue into talking a little more about the criteria that we're using for the SMART goals. So, Lou, why don't you take us through specific, and then we'll switch around as we go through.
Yeah, for sure. So, specific goal setting is often associated with striving toward our highest aspirations, and reaching those aspirations can seem daunting. Specificity helps us determine the path between where we are and where we want to be. A specific goal will usually answer the 5W questions. Awesome questions, by the way. um, what do I want to accomplish? Who is involved? Why is this goal important? Where is it located? Which resources or limits are involved? I especially like why is this goal important because you really need to get strategic when you're doing a career change. You don't want to just be doing whatever. And there can be a lot of information out there. I mean, even when you do research about a role, they can be like a ton of different like books, websites, videos, but you really want to focus in what's gonna move you forward. So, and having the right resources can make all the difference.
Yeah,
So this is very important.
yeah, and I think the very good part about that is that you don't get lost in the fog or the mist of what a goal could be if you don't have it like fleshed out. So these questions will help you in figuring out exactly what it is that you want to accomplish in a way that makes sense. Being as specific as possible will not only help with knowing exactly what you want to accomplish, but the how. And it really will help in breaking it down into smaller pieces. In a nutshell, putting limits into what you're really trying to accomplish is what's really going to help in figuring out exactly what you want to do. I did talk a little more on that, but in the interest of time, I'm going to keep it brief. And these questions will definitely help in figuring out exactly those steps and the limits of where exactly your goal lies. Because otherwise, you might get swamped with a choice paralysis. And there's being a lot of paths and a lot of ways to do X or Y can really feel like they're, they're limiting you in a way that isn't really conductive to success. So on that, let's transition into what's measurable. Definitely tied into specific, while specific tells you exactly what it is that you're going to accomplish, measurable is going to tell you exactly how or what needs to be accomplished within that what to tell you how can you reach that goal that you want to do. So quantifying that to be able to track progress is going to be key in being successful in making those goals. So you have to ask yourself how much, how many, or how will I know when this is accomplished? This is basically going to be your flag post, telling you whenever you reach this point, you've gotten to X milestone or you're this far along. Um, and that's definitely part of what's going to make you successful in figuring out your goals for the foreseeable future. Lou, anything you want to add on that?
Um, yeah, I just love the question, how will I know when it is completed? Because you can get like too picky when thinking that you're not up to the task, and that could also be a limiting belief. So it's important to know when you're ready to give the next step. For instance, when you develop a set of skills, and then it's the time to move forward and start looking for a job in that new career. So it is important to keep that in mind as well.
And those are great insights. And I think one of the things that I would, outside of echoing everything that you just said, what I would add to that is that you need to measure within the limits of reason. You also don't want to set moonshot goals that are too far ahead of your current state. Remember that goals are attainable within a short time frame. You might want to think long term, but when you're thinking long term, you might be thinking of more, something broader like a theme, or um, if you're thinking of a cumulative goal, then you need to break that down into pieces, into something that is within your reach. So when you're
Yeah,
looking to measure not only your progress but what defines success, you need to be very cognizant of where you are at this point in time before you start thinking about how that's going to branch out into the future.
yeah, absolutely.
So, Lou, do you want to take attainable or should I?
Yeah, I can take attainable. As you were saying, you don't want to set a goal for yourself that is outside your reach. You want to feel slightly challenged, but definitely well enough so you can achieve the goal that you're setting for yourself. Um, the guide mentions that you must possess the appropriate knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to achieve the goal. Impossible goals demotivate, which is an absolute truth. On the opposite side, an attainable goal will usually answer the question, how will I know when it is accomplished?
And at
So,
that point, you can start to
go
see.
ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, go
You
ahead.
can start to see some you can start to see some correlation in between what's measurable and what's attainable because the two go very much hand in hand. Um,
Yes.
so the fact that you see that question show up in both is very much intentional. We want to make sure that when we're defining what's measurable, we're also thinking that it's attainable to measure that particular outcome. And that's definitely something that you want to keep top of mind as you're starting to think, okay, this is what our goals look like. So that core question can really apply to what you want to measure and how you want to measure it against your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And that particular question will also point you to the gaps that you need to fill before a certain goal is achievable. So if I want to build my first web application, I need to know more JavaScript, for example. Or if I want to break into X field, I need to be connected to a certain amount of people that are already in the field. Or before I start thinking of how a career might look like in this sector, like I know I have the skills, I may need to find a mentor or someone that's already been in this position in order for us to establish a connection and to figure out exactly what a day to day looks like or where people that don't come from a background such as mine can find success in this particular role.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
That takes us into the relevance. Yet attainability, once again, you're starting to see how the threads kind of collide against each other. We have to think about the goals that actually matter and the context that they are in. So this is when we're talking about relevancy, we're talking about being realistic, or not only about you, um, but about the factors that are around you, which is something I'm sure that's come up in a lot of people's minds as we enter a period of economic contraction, or what others have called an economic downturn. Is this the right environment to begin my own business? Is this the right time to transition into a new role? Maybe, am I in a financial position to maybe take a step back to get an entry level role or a role of lesser seniority in a different field?
Yeah.
And how does that, is that worthwhile? That's a core question. Is this entire thing, this entire effort worthwhile for this particular moment in time? I would say that the answer more often than not is going to be yes. If your goal, if you're thinking about it more as a mid to long term goal, then you should always think of the progress that you can make now to set yourself up to when things are conductive to actually making that change. So if your goal is opening a business for yourself and you're currently employed, so is it worthwhile to just dump everything right now, or maybe I should wait a little longer for things to ease in and for inflation to track down a little bit before I actually hop into business? Or do I want to hop into it now where I can maybe snag some of the spaces that the competition left because they had to contract or leave the market for X or Y reason. So that's all part of the equation. At the end of the day, this is just a very convoluted equation of whether or not the answer is yes or no on whether or not this is what you want for you right now, or is this what I want
Exactly.
for me in the near future. And this is where
Yeah.
you find the answer.
And I'm curious to know, what do you think about the question, are you the right person?
I think that's a question that you have to ask yourself um, with a yes in mind. I mean, the answer should always be yes, and I need to do X or Y to get to that specific place. Because
How do I
when we're talking
become the
about
right
what,
person?
if, yes, how do I become the right person? Or, if I know I'm the right person, how do I become the person that's going to be employed doing X, or that can make a living doing X? Because there's a different mindset there. So do I have the skills to be a salesman? Yeah, sure. But being a salesman requires a certain skill or ability that needs to be built up upon before I can make the full transition. And those types of introspecting questions should always lead to, okay, so what does it take to be that person? And then crafting goals and objectives around that.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
You want to take time?
Yeah, of course.
The
Time related.
For sure.
Goals should be linked to a time frame that creates a practical sense of urgency or results in tension between the current reality and the vision of the goal. Without such tension, the goal is unlikely to produce a relevant outcome. A time bound goal will usually answer the questions when, what can I do in 6 months, what can I do in 6 weeks, or what can I do today. As I mentioned before, this is my favorite because usually a goal can become like more of an abstract idea rather than something that has a timeline and that you need to be constantly achieving small steps to get there. So I feel that
Yeah, and I think
it
that
can make a
oh,
whole difference.
for sure, for sure. And it piggies back off of the points that we've been making across this entire thing is that making things digestible is very important, but also if you don't set a time frame to them, you'll just find yourself postponing and postponing and postponing because achieving goals, takes effort.
Yeah,
And if you put yourself in a mindset of you can do it later, then later will never come. And setting yourself up on these deadlines, that we've established are specific to a particular thing, are reasonable, are attainable, and are relevant to what you want to do. You always want to have a time frame to it. Even if we're talking about something that needs to be achieved way further down the line, there's something that you can start doing today. There's
yes,
something you can start doing in
absolutely.
6 weeks, in a week. There's always goals. So, like for example, the most common thing that comes to mind that relates to this is, living a healthier lifestyle. So, does that mean going to the gym? Does that mean changing your diet? Does that mean walking more? Does that mean, doing some more physical activity? And defining what that looks for you, once you have the entire outcome, okay, so what am I going to do today? Whether that means cutting down on sugary drinks, that's a start, and changing that with
Yeah.
water or something more natural.
No, not
Um,
today, on Monday.
that's a trap. That's a trap. There's always
Yeah,
something that you can do today, and even if the day's about to end, then maybe that means doing a little bit of research on the things that you're going to look through tomorrow, or going into a little more detail on what exactly it is that we're going to do within the next. Planning in and of itself is a task, and you need to slot time for it and preparing for it before you actually go into the execution. That's part of the execution. So that core question, what can I do today, is what's going to lead to your 6 week goal, to your 6 month goal, to your year long goal. And it's always a process of building up to it rather than waking up and finding yourself that it's done. And planning, of course, is a very big part of that we help this content can really help with.
yeah, absolutely. And something that is really helpful about this guide is that you can also use the last few pages to write down those steps and goals. So, for instance, some of the questions that you have here, like the space you think about and to write down, are what are your most important objectives that you are hoping to achieve in 2023? What are some of the areas of your current role you most enjoy and feel you excel at? This is a key question to figure out your next step, whether it's within the same industry or whether you want to take some of the skills you already have and use it in a different industry or role. And the last one is, can you share some specific details of what your ideal future role or type of work looks like? What type of day to day skill sets do you hope to see yourself doing? And I want to mention something that really helped me out before is watching on YouTube videos about a day in a life, not of influencers and celebrities, but of people that are doing the same role that I wanted to have. That could be an eye opening when you feel like, no, this is absolutely not what I thought this was, and I don't want to do this. Or on the contrary, you can see like the day to day requirements of the role align with your goals, and then is you have the green light to pursue this goal.
Yeah, and I think that last question of talking through or writing down rather exactly what your ideal future role or type of work looks like is key. Because whenever you start to actually put it down on paper, you might figure out, oh, this, I was thinking that I wanted to do this, but maybe I want to do a little more research because that might seem a little more interesting. Um, and just talking through or maybe just fleshing out exactly what that feature looks for you beyond a particular title or any particular task, that this is what's really going to help in painting that picture in a more accurate light before you make the decision of making that your entire focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we want to invite all of you to our free career coaching that is available in our Discord community. And there, our CEO, who is an HR leader with many years of experience, can help you identify your personal obstacles that you might be facing when you want to achieve a new goal. And he can walk you through the solution as well. So, we wanted to invite all of you to take advantage of this awesome and free opportunity.
For sure. And on our Discord community, we also have a group of professionals from a wide variety of fields that are more than willing to help or to give you a better understanding of what it looks like to work at X, Y, or Z, or just wanting some insights into how they've made their career changes. So there's definitely a lot to get out of our Discord. It's a community that's really willing to help and that I'm proud to say I'm a part of. So definitely be in the lookout for that and join in if you have a chance.
Great. Do we have time for some questions? If anyone in the audience has
Yeah,
a question.
we have about 10 minutes before we go.
Okay, perfect. Well, guys, feel free to write down any of the questions you might have about making a turn in your career journey.
So a common question that we've gotten in prior engagements is that where exactly do I start when when I'm looking to make that shift? Um, Outside of what we've mentioned in our conversations, I always feel like smaller companies are always a great place to start that journey. Um, and always, those are the places where you'll see that there's a little more flexibility um, in what they'll let you do and what they won't let you do. Precisely because since they're smaller teams and there's a lot to be done and not a lot of people to do it, it's a really great environment to test out your skills and try new things that can eventually lead to a career change.
Yes, exactly. And if you guys have any other questions about setting smart uh, career goals, then we have this amazing downloadable available on our website. So we invite you all to go for it, to read it, and to write down your goals into into these achievable chunks so you all can make it. Anything
Sure.
else that you want to add, Mario?
Oh, I think the last piece that we was about to say was around any other pieces of advice that I could give you. And then if you wanted to reach either Lou or I or any other of our member or of our co-work members of Jump Recruits, you can always find us in our Discord community. It's really easy to access, and you should be able to um, join in with us and ask any questions that you may have. Our lines are always open and always willing to offer feedback whenever available. You can also find us on LinkedIn, as well as our entire company. So if you have questions about anything that isn't talent or sales related, you can always reach out to our marketing department to get a few pieces of advice here or there, or even to our CEO, who I know for sure has helped other entrepreneurs in starting their journey. Um, we're all here to help, and we apologize for the technical inconveniences. Um, and our lines are open if you have any other questions or any other thoughts that you want to run by us. Once again, this downloadable is available through the Jump Recruit site on the DNI white papers. So feel free to reach out. If you can't find it, we'll be more than happy to supply a copy. And our lines, as I said, are always open for anyone and everyone that is looking to make a career change here at Jump Recruits. Proud of being a leader of Black and Brown professionals.